at the end of last week, you had to complete a production possibilities curve, also known as a production possibilities frontier for me for the Bear family. And so what I looked for was, did you create a new curve for the Bear family when we added Goldilocks? Goldilocks is a different type of resource. The Bear family couldn't produce this many pounds of berries or this many salmon in a given day without adding that additional worker. So if we look at the following slides, we're going to introduce you to different types of resources, also known as factors of production. Looking down the list, you have entrepreneurship, you have capital, you have labor, and you have land. Now, labor we just covered with Goldilocks, but we'll come back to that. First one is entrepreneurship, and so you can see the definition there is a risk taker who has the ability to own a business. So consider a Snickers bar. Frank Mars is the original owner of the Mars Corporation, which produced the first Snickers bar. And so Frank Mars would be considered the entrepreneur behind that product. Next type of resource is a capital resource. Now note my first bullet point for you says money is not capital. What capital means is it's a product that you may acquire from somebody else that you need to create your product. So it's the tools, the machinery, the materials that you need to produce that good or service. Money doesn't make the product. Money might help you acquire the capital necessary to make the product. But just keep in mind, money's not capital. You might hear it used in local media or nationwide media as capital, and what they mean by that is venture capital, and that's a different term altogether. Land is another resource that's necessary to create a product. In the case of the Snickers bar, we'd be looking at land necessary to put a factory on. Backtracking for a moment to capital, think of the machinery that's in the factory. That would certainly be something that Frank Mars would have needed to acquire to make the Snickers bars. Lastly, you need labor to make a product. And not only are we talking about people and work, but it's also the time that is needed to produce the good. Notice that when we did the Bear family example, time was something that was lacking. They could only catch so many fish or gather so many berries in a given period of time. Labor is also determined by your skill set and your experience. So the more skills or highly qualified you are, and possibly the more experienced you are, the more valuable your labor is going to be. The last thing you have to consider after creating a product and figuring out how you're going to allocate all your resources is you need to figure out who's that product going to be made for and how are they going to get it. So economists look at rationing devices as ways to figure out how people are going to get what they need. So let's suppose that I have a $10,000 scholarship that I want to give away. There's 7 different methods that I could use. First one is an auction. So think of eBay or something like that. If I put my scholarship up on eBay, said, here's a $10,000 scholarship, what will you bid on it? It's going to go to the highest bidder. And it might actually be interesting to conduct this experiment and see how high would the price be for a $10,000 scholarship. Would someone be willing to pay more than the $10,000 for it and then turn around and give it to somebody else? I don't know. That'd be something to maybe look at in the future. Next, you have performance is another way of giving out that $10,000 scholarship. That one might be pretty straightforward. Like say you look at all your applicants and decide who gets it based on who has the highest grade point average. Another type is lottery. So you could sell chances to win that $10,000 scholarship, and then the winner would be randomly chosen out of a pool of tickets that were purchased. Next, you have first come, first serve. And if we did that, maybe I'd post a $10,000 scholarship somewhere online, and the first person who found it could claim it, and they would have it. It's really based on timing because that's who's going to benefit from having that type of rationing device. We find this a lot in our society. Think of trying to get tickets for a concert or a sporting event. Many of those premium seats are sold on a first come, first served basis. Next, you have seniority. And so if we're looking at my $10,000 scholarship, I might look at who's the oldest person who's applying for the scholarship. Or I could look at who's been waiting the longest too. But seniority can be measured in those ways. 6, I might have personal characteristics. For example, with my scholarship, maybe I want to only consider people who were born in Canada for this $10,000 scholarship. And so that would be based on a personal characteristic. And I might whittle down other personal characteristics after that as criteria for giving out the scholarship. And then lastly, type of rationing device I could use to figure out who and how we're going to get that product to somebody is through dictatorship or fiat. And that means, well, I might just give it to somebody. For example, I might just decide to give it to my kid because I can choose to do so. So what we've covered in this set of notes and the activities that we've done so far is something that you're going to find in your Chapter 2, Section 1 reading. And one of your questions is going to ask you, what are the 3 questions all countries and producers must answer? And it's simply put, it's what are you going to make, how are you going to make it, and who's going to get it? The what are you going to make is the entrepreneurial question. How are you going to make it is how are you going to use your resources to make that product? And then lastly, who's going to get it are these rationing devices that you're looking at. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is go back to our assignment for the day and take a look at the directions that I provided for you and the image that's in your directions. What I've created is a screenshot of a collage that I created for a Snickers bar. And read through the directions, and that is your assignment, is to create your own collage of a product that isn't a Snickers bar or a candy bar.